So, good morning and a very warm welcome, everybody. Welcome. Very excited to introduce this very first expert time with Facilitation Done Right. My name is Gail Watson. I am the founder of ThinkSkills, service providers for the virtual classroom. And I've also initiated this this Facilitation Done Right program, which started on Tuesday, because in my line of work, I work with a lot of trainers who don't necessarily have been equipped with the skills to take trainings and programs outside the classroom and carry on the learning conversation outside a formal learning environment, whether physical in a class or in the virtual classroom. So this is what Facilitation Done Right is about, is what's happened in a blended program, what's happened when you have to use social media, learning communities, how do you introduce yourself, how do you communicate, how do you engage with people, how do you poke them, prompt them to take part in a conversation and make sure that you're visible and available for them to ask their questions and that they feel comfortable doing it. So Facilitation Done Right started on Tuesday, on the 23rd of January. Because learning is about embedding, it's going to last 6 weeks, and we've got a variety of experts who all volunteer their time freely and very generously. So thank you very much. Some of them are here today, and some of them are going to come up in the coming up sessions on Friday. They're all on Friday morning. So I'm very excited today to introduce this very first session with Joe Cook, founder of Lightbulb Moment and deputy editor of Training Journal. Jo is a fantastic virtual classroom guru, but she's also a fantastic guru on everything that touches to learning, and she's a wonderful friend of mine. Good morning, Jo. How are you today?
Good morning. I am very excited to be here, especially with that kind of introduction.
Thank you, Jo. Do you want to turn on your webcam, please?
Oh, I suppose I could. There we go. Hello, good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you here. I'm really looking forward to a vibrant chat window with you today.
Yes, we can see you. Good morning, Jo. Everybody is delighted to have you on board.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to it. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for that. And Gail, thank you for such a lovely introduction. And it's wonderful to be friends with you. And I'm really looking forward to working on this today. So do keep using that chat window for questions, comments all the time. And also, as Gail said, put your hand up anytime you think, I've got a comment, I've got a question. I'd love to hear from you. It would be brilliant. And today, what Gail has asked me to cover about is the changing landscape of learning and development, and all looking at sort of corporate learning and making that better. And it's all about a practical aspect for us as professional trainers and what we can do. And part of this change is all about using technology and social media. So if you're thinking, yeah, I could do a little tweet on this, you can go and use what's called hashtag FacilitationDoneRight. You just need to go and do a tweet on that. It would be great, even if you just do a little hello, something like that. And also, if you're thinking, well, I don't know, I haven't seen the tweets yet, there's a link there where you can go and just see what's there so far. So you can just do a dip a toe in the water if you want to. So I've got a question for you right at the beginning. So Gail's going to open up our first poll. And I'd like to find out a little bit more about who you are, how you've come into this industry. All of our backgrounds are different, and it helps our training approach. So select the option that tells us a little bit about your background, and feel free to share a little bit more in chat as well. So how did you get into learning and development? You might have started out here, which is brilliant. You might have been in an operational role in your organisation. You might have just ended up here by accident. Certainly I didn't plan to be here, but I'm loving the fact that I am now. Maybe it was just a natural progression from where you were, or it could be something else, and you can use the chat window to expand on any of that. So tell us how you started here. Feel free to use that chat window. Gail, what about you? Did you start in learning and development?
Oh, God knows. I've got a law degree, Jo, so nothing to do with learning and development. And I just, like everybody, I stumbled I eventually landed there, and I love it. I don't want to leave it anymore.
Absolutely. So let's, have we got enough votes in our poll for us to be able to close that?
They're still coming in. Remember to click on submit when you are done with the with selecting your options. So submit is at the bottom, and we're going to give you just 1 more second to make your choice. I know quite a few people are just still debating how did they ended up in LnD. So I'm closing the poll. We've got just a few seconds left, and I'm going to share the results.
Thank you very much. And Olivia is saying that she met you through the association. Let me read that again. Through association event.
of Association Executive. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. You work alongside LnD, which is brilliant. And Lizzie says, funny, we think we arrived with LnD by mistake. But, the window's very small. Let me make that a little bit bigger. We think we arrived with LnD by mistake, but we've been learning since we arrived in the world. I love that point.
That's a very good point. Thanks, Lizzie.
Absolutely. Been in sales and marketing, says Goella, and now looking for options to balance work and family life. That's a really good one. So, and we don't worry about typing and spelling and things. And James says, I did an art degree to become a painter. Lovely. And it all changes. Yeah, I got a job just in learning and development simply because I overstretched myself financially and ended up going, oh my God, I love this. And it's exactly what you say, 20 years I'm still here and loving it. It's the same story for me. So let's look at our poll. What have we got? Some of you started operationally. And also then some of you did something different. You know, nobody started in this industry. That's a really interesting thing. So let's close that poll down, and then my next question for you is going to be, how many years have you been working in learning and development? So we already have 20 years from Jane, so that's really interesting. So how many years have you been working in LnD?
And if when during the poll the attending panels with the webcam as minimized, you can just go to the top of the screen on the right and just expand the window again, and you will see the chat and the attendee list opening again. It's much nicer to see real people, isn't it?
It definitely is. So could I have that presentable back again, please, Gail? And so how many years have you been working in LnD? It's a very broad definition that I'm saying, working in LnD, working in any kind of learning, really. So let's just get an idea of how many years experience we've got, really. I'm certainly at the over 20 years now. It's a bit scary. And we've had Jane said around 20 years. So in that chat window, just roughly, is it a couple of years? Is it a couple of months? Olivia says 15 plus years, don't want to admit my age. Olivia, I know what you mean. I feel like I need the hair dye out. Mike says 9 months with a sad face. Oh, Mike. Now, Mike is my business operations manager and also my brother. Mike, 9 months is brilliant because what you've got is different experience that you're bringing to LnD, so that's pretty cool. Trevor, 16 years. Daniel, a couple of years. Late in joining you. Welcome, Daniel. RK, 15 years. Liz, oh, hello, Liz, 20 years. Kat says 3 properly, 5 in different parts of other roles. Now that I look back, great. And Mike says, great point, Joe. Thank you, Mike. Lizzie says 25 plus. Promise I'm not that old. I've been working since I started as a participant, learner, manager, learning leader, and performance consultant. There's a lot of things in there. So we've got a lot of experience, and we've also got a lot of different experiences that we are bringing together. So also then we're going to find out, Daniel says, have been a subject of LnD throughout my career. Yes, like all of us, you're right. So we're going to practice the annotation tools first of all. Have a look at the very top left corner of your screen. You should see an arrow tool. Go and click on that, please. Click anywhere on the slide and you'll have your name, which is absolutely brilliant. So you can click anywhere and you can move it around. So you can play chase the arrow if you want to, which is quite good fun. And what I would also like you to do, please, now is use the T-text tool. So go and click next to your name and just put something in, saying a hello. You know, I've put hola. I'm sure that Gail is going to put bonjour.
sorry to disappoint, Joe.
Well, yeah, it's very disappointing that you said, Joe, you're wonderful. It's terrible. I hate it. Thank you, Gail. So all you have to do is once you've typed your writing, then you just click once more, and it reveals your writing to everyone. So Mike says, Mike, I don't even know what that is. You're supposed to be nice to me. Aha, I don't know what that is. You're going to have to type it phonetically in the chat window, Mike. James says, good morning, Joella. Now, Joella and Daniel, you've got really light coloured writing, but don't worry, what you can do is change it. So on my screen grab, mine is red, and if you click that button, you'll get a different colour that you can choose for your writing. It won't change your arrow, but it will change your writing, so go and have a practice with that. So Mike says that aha, or whatever the pronunciation is Slovakian for hello. Well, thank you, Michael, for that. So is it just ahoy? Ahoy. Thank you, Michael. I should know things like that. So Joella says that's better. Lydia says bonjour. Kat says happy Friday. And this is great. Excellent. So let's go and do a real activity now. So we've been in the industry for different amounts of time, different experiences. That's what we've just discovered. What have you noticed changing in that time? So go and use that arrow tool. Go and find yourself a little space. And then just use that text tool and just think, you know, in that time that you've been in this industry or around it or next to it or a subject to it, what has changed? What have you noticed changing? Now, I know, Mike, you said you've only been in it 9 months, but you've been pretty much thrown in at the deep end. So you might have a different thought on this or a different way of looking at it. But we've all got some things that we can share. So Lizzie says, speed from idea to learning. You're absolutely right about that, Lizzie. So in some cases, it's really quick from we need this right now. Mike says, I've already seen tech changing. That's interesting in 9 months, isn't it? And what else have we got? Liz says, course times greatly reduced, 5 days down to 90 minutes. Yeah, especially if you're looking then at live online learning like we're doing, or online courses, which is kind of is the whole blend, which we'll get to later on. Kat says, people want to learn in shorter spaces of time. Absolutely. RK says, speed and variety of information. Yep. James says, content as an IT trainer. So yes, they're always upgrading and changing and new things are coming out. Lifelong learning, says Gail, so that's probably something a little bit newer. And actually, I was speaking at Online Educa Berlin conference at the end of last year, and one of the themes of this year's conference was about the lifelong learner who's going to be working later. So we're not necessarily retiring at 55, 60 or 65. We might be retiring at 75 and actually living until we're 85, 90, 100. And actually there's a whole area of our life to go and discover there from a learning point of view. Trevor says change, not as much as you'd expect. Absolutely, Trevor. So some things haven't changed, and that's something that we will look at as well. Olivia says, let me zoom in, I look closer, faster, virtual, and more demanding. Well, I'm all about the virtual, it must be said. But yeah, lots of different pace, it must be said. Okay, and Daniel says, resources and methods turn to learn and to coaching. So there's all sorts of different methods we can blend together. Now, Emma, if you're thinking she hasn't read mine out, maybe you just need to click so that I can see your writing. The same for Pauline and Javella as well. There we go. Emma says people want less classroom-based learning and more after support required and blended learning. Yes, we're going to talk about that shortly. And also, what we've got, let me zoom out a bit so I can read it. I think maybe Pauline or Kat has said places you can learn from for free, TED Talks and all sorts of other ideas. Absolutely. Brilliant list here, everybody. Thank you so much. So there's lots of things that have changed in this time. So let's have a look then at technology, because that's one of the first things that often we need to discuss when we're talking about any change in actually any industry or any aspect of life. So what technology is impacting you at work? So let's go and type into that chat window now. What technology is impacting you at work?
Slow broadband, said Cat. Slack, says Estelle. Trevor says use of LinkedIn. Social media, Mike. Liz says Slack. Use of video, Jane. Liz, online platforms. And Joe, remind you that when you send your message, send it to all participants so we can all see it. Absolutely, Joe. Thank you. So online platform, recording, training, infographic and animation, says Pauline. Olivia says Skype is a game changer for our teams, and also it's GoToMeeting. Zoom. So all the big platforms for virtual learning, live virtual learning and virtual training, absolutely.
There's lots of interesting stuff here. And Samir says each country has a special technology that works best for it, absolutely. And Kat makes the point about slow broadband is still a real challenge that we have. Lizzie says easy access to tools that you can use to complete tasks and then use a different one. Agility for tools and opportunities. Lizzie, that is absolutely a brilliant phrase, that agility for those tools, absolutely excellent. And all of these different things that we've got, whether it's platforms, access to technology, whether it's about what we can do on our smartphones, they're all impacting the way that we live, that we work, ultimately that we deliver learning and that we support performance and so on. And one element of this that we've got to think about actually is blended learning. You've brought that topic up already. So Gail, what are your thoughts around blended learning?
Well, I think it's been talked about for quite a long time, and obviously it's working in the virtual classroom. I've seen it done many times and not always very successfully, to tell you the truth.
So what are the challenges that you've seen?
Personally, I think that the blended parts of this, the structured, the formal learning part of the blended is always quite traditional, whether it's face-to-face or virtual. However, what goes around in between the structured learning is sometimes a bit weak. There is clearly a lack of engagement from the different actors in the course, in the training. And there is clearly also a lack of know-how to engage with the learners and keep them engaged. Well, that's my views. What about yours, Joe? Oh, Olivia, can you give us an example of blended learning in your opinion? Well, typically, in most of the program I work with, you would have probably one part that's face-to-face, maybe a day or two at the beginning. And then there will be additional virtual classroom learning, and everything will be wrapped around with something that's a community of learning, whichever tools are used, and it's absolutely irrelevant, the tools. And that's this part of the community learning, which should be peer-to-peer learning, which should be getting some coaching using the community from the trainer. That part is always seems to be a little bit weak, I think, and don't get the performance or the value that I think it deserves.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you're making there, Gail. And I just wonder what people's experiences are where it's been good at different points. And Jane makes a great point. I had a delegate fly over from Africa and South America a couple of weeks ago because they're remote locations meant we couldn't work online. And that's a real challenge, especially in South Africa. They have, I think they call it load shedding, where often power goes out because there's not enough power for everybody. Daniel says, one challenge I have working in patient-oriented programs and monitoring colleagues working remotely is the reliability of the tools still can be a challenge. And Liz says, I think you have to work very hard to set it up and that means engaging with all stakeholders. Yeah, it's not necessarily easy, just like the picture that I've got here, you know, to make a glorious piece of artwork. It's not easy, it takes a lot of skill, but it's about using those right tools and getting things right in the first place. So on that point about technology, I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. So this is from Good Practice. They've done some research showing all sorts of results around what managers' perception is of technology for their learning. So let me show you this. And what I think is really interesting here is this graph. It's one of many graphs and bits of results that they've got. It shows the enthusiasm or lack of enthusiasm for managers in the UK for new technology to use for learning. So it's a bit of a shock, well, it's not a shock, but it shows face-to-face training right up at the top, coaching and mentoring, absolutely great for learning. It was a bit of a shock that e-learning was next, because traditionally in the industry, we don't always have a great view of e-learning. So the green was really useful. The orange was useful. No, let me rephrase that. The green was useful. This is useful to me. The orange was really useful. The blue was don't know, and the red was not useful, something like that. And I apologise, I thought I had kept the key on there, but obviously I didn't. What I think is with regards to technology is that it's interesting that after the learning and management system halfway down, what's quite interesting is these other tools actually, you know, in learning and development we often tout them and put them out there, but they weren't actually necessarily seen as all that useful to managers for learning. What does this mean to you as training professionals? That people are saying actually it's about face-to-face in the first instance, then you've got some kind of big things that are useful, and after that, not so sure. Lizzie says, wonder if that's to do with managers' control. Tell us a bit more, Lizzie, about that. Lizzie previously said the reality is that 70% of what we hear today we've forgotten by tomorrow, quite likely. So it could be to do with control, you know, with e-learning. Is it because it's simple to unload, something like that? Is it simple to get people on? Rather than we've just discussed, blended can be quite challenging. So tell us what you think about that. And remember to send it to all participants, otherwise I won't be able to see it. Lizzie means by control, managers want to have something tangible that has happened. Oh, you're absolutely right, Lizzie. It's that perennial problem of measuring bums on seats as opposed to real performance and learning. Olivia says, I think people believe face-to-face is vital as a kick-off, but I don't agree that this applies to all learning environments. I really like what you're saying there. And face-to-face is brilliant. Does it have to be used for everything? Not necessarily. So develop, this is all managers in this research, and I've shared the link with you just now so you can go and download the whole report from Good Practice. It's a really good report, and I'll just paste that in again. So this is what managers' perception of technology for learning. Pauline says maybe because they're not sure how to use the new technology. I think that's a key thing. It's for us to model, for us to do it really well, and to show how it's going to impact people. Do they set aside the time to try them? Not necessarily. Perhaps it's what managers do. Perhaps they put virtual classrooms going and then don't listen and think everyone else does that. Yeah, so all sorts of challenges we've got there, something to think about. And one more thing then to wrap up this area is actually then more about us as professionals, as opposed to that was about managers in organisations. And this is about skills. So this is from the Towards Maturity benchmark report, came out at the end of last year. So let me share that link with you as well. There's all sorts in this slide. There's a lot in this slide. The grey shows that the organisations, about 600 organisations, saying these are the skills we want. This is our priority. And then what you can see, the blue and the purple in the middle, which is roughly similar. There's not a lot of difference between 2016 and last year. Those are the reality that people are seeing for their learning and development teams. And there's a whole thing around design, delivery, the technical elements that are here, including things like digital content, technology, blended learning, if I can get my pen to work, Also, then we've got the virtual classroom and webinars and all sorts of other stuff around things like instructional design at the top here. And what I'm seeing is an absolutely massive gap in skills. That's what I'm seeing. What are you seeing in this diagram, and what does that mean for our industry? So what are you seeing in this diagram, and what does it mean for our industry? I'm just going to clear my annotation off of here so that you can see it a little bit clearer. So what are you seeing? And put your hand up if you want to speak. It's not all about me. That's what my boyfriend tells me anyway.
Doesn't it, Joe? I think it should be about you, all about you.
Oh, Olivia, I love you. She says, oh, Joe, it is. So different people are pointing to different things. What are you pointing to and why? So Lizzie wants to speak. Let's unmute Lizzie.
Your line is open, Lizzie.
Hey! I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I thought I'd be slightly different rather than keep writing, because like most people, I'm probably trying to do more things than I should be. So I think the key thing for me about this diagram, which is what I find really exciting, understanding the business problem, is absolutely passionate about what I think it is. It's really trying to be curious about understanding the business problem, and then getting at the same time understanding of how the audience really find the best means to get the performance and seeing their success and results they're wanting to get.
Really interesting point there about what is that success, how can we get it. Thank you very much for that, Lizzie. What else have we got? There's a massive gap between different things, and Kat's highlighted a particular one. Pauline does love this diagram. Collaborative learning is so important in the world we're living in today. There is a big gap, lots of gaps in there. Oh, and Mike's just highlighting, if you want to come back to any of the diagrams, he's been tweeting them, so you can go and look on Twitter. Yeah, so the ROI, the evaluating impact summit, yeah, using data analytics is very poor. There's loads of things in here, isn't there, that basically we're not doing well. What does this mean in terms of our skills? That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering. To me, it means there's work to do. There's things to go and have a look at. That's what I'm seeing here. And this is all about change, which is where I want to go to next on this. And Samir says we need to use a lot of examples. And Lizzie says, I think understanding what our strengths are. Love that, Lizzie. Okay. So let's then have a look at change as part of facilitation done right. We've looked at a few different things around change, but I have another question for you. What do you think should have changed but actually hasn't? What do you think should have changed but actually hasn't? So in that chat window, or remember you can put that hand up icon and you can come on audio.
Good one, Daniel. Corporate mindset. I also wonder if learning is still seen as like a quick fix, like, you know, for corporate problems, still, like, you know, we'll send someone into a training. Oh, and Kelal wants to talk, so I'm going to open your line now. Your line is open, Kelal.
I missed your name, sorry. Okay, so according to me, in academics, we are still training people to learn more in classrooms and practice at homes. However, what according to me should happen, like you can learn on the go. Now the time is changing, and you would never be able to find enough classrooms to learn. So let them practice for the future, that make them learn independently and collaborate together to clear their doubts, perceptions, ideas, so that they get a better picture of world. So that is what I think should change now.
So it's all to do with pressures and the reality actually of what it is that we need to be doing. Thank you so much for that, RK. And in different environments, it's working differently. You're absolutely right about that. So let's get those mute buttons back on so that we can have a nice clean background. Coaching skills are not being embraced, as Trevor. Lizzie says, we start with the idea that we're here to support success and high performance. Yeah, we should definitely be doing that, shouldn't we? There's a few things that I think haven't changed and that quite frankly should have changed. And one of these, a really good example, is learning styles. For me, it's an absolute no-no. Why do I put them in this area? Why do I say that actually learning styles we should have got rid of and we should be thinking that, and see what you think, whether you agree or not. So what do you think? Why have I put learning styles in this category? So in the chat window, or remember you can use that hand up. Why have I put learning styles in this category?
Daniel, because it can dictate the process. Dictate, thanks for correcting. Got it. Tricky question, Joe. Not as many answers. Oh, here we are. Style is for the generation. Would it, and then Pauline, would it be we learn differently in different situations? There are no one set of learning style. And Olivia would like to clarify if you're saying that learning style, sorry, the chat is just so busy, I can't keep up with it. Style haven't changed. It's socially because trainers haven't tried to change them. From Stone Age to paper and now digital. We're all different and come from different things. Being aware for this, so I think being aware of this is quite important. It's probably what Lizzie meant. Sorry, Lizzie.
Okay, so some really interesting answers there. Thank you, everyone. The concept behind learning styles is that we learn in different ways. Some people process things much more visually as a preference. Some process things much more auditorily and listen to things and process it better than what they see or they watch. And some people are much more kinesthetic. They want to get hands-on and they want to get in there quite quickly with what we're doing. And this all feels quite compelling, quite frankly. I know I used to utterly believe this and utterly feel this, because we do process information in different ways and we do have preferences. The thing is, though, these change over time. You're right, they change in different contexts. We've got different technology and things now. The trouble is that empirical, trusted research doesn't back up the claim that if you teach to people's preferences, they learn better, and that's the issue. So that's the issue, is that not that we don't have those preferences, we do, but the teaching specifically to those is not a great thing, and I've shared a link there for you. Lizzie, Bob Mosher would say that people are learning because it's new, want to know more, want to change, and so on. You're absolutely right. So look up Bob Mosher's 5 moments of learning need. 5 moments of need, I think it is. And if you look on Twitter, I think it's #5MON, moments of need. So definitely go and Google that, because it's a really good way to look at how people learn and why. I think another really great example of things that should have changed that haven't, psychometric tools, things like MBTI. The idea of a psychometric test is that they work out what type of person you are, how you function, so that you know yourself better and you can communicate and work well with others. And the concept is certainly good. Many people have found insight and help from them, which is excellent. Are they all based on scientific evidence? A lot aren't, and that's the issue. Some absolutely are, some aren't. And I've got a podcast you can go and listen to there that's specifically about MBTI, but then you can apply that thinking a little bit more broadly. Olivia says it's about appealing to their time priority, not their learning style, in my opinion. Their time priority is also need priority. That's a great point, Olivia, and that's why a lot of training is bite-sized, micro-learning, just-in-time learning. We're hearing so much of that now. And Lizzie says there's a whole debate whether learning styles is a red herring. Learning styles are a red herring. There is no empirical evidence for it. Learning preferences, yes, they exist, but not actually catering to them. It doesn't make a difference. Emma says these are all great tools, but you're right that it's a preference. It should only be used as a starting point or a conversation starter. Yes, because if what you're doing is using that as a starter to say, well, how do I learn? How could I do better? And making sure we're doing a whole variety for different people, then that is a great thing. If what you're doing is saying, well, actually, everybody who learns this way can only learn this way forever, obviously that's a poor thing. Another great example, just a quick one, is Morabian's communication pie chart. So I've just done a Google for this, and this is what came up on Google. You've all seen this about communication. 7% of our message is the words, 38% is tone and how we say it, and 55% is body language. Well, you know what? This is all based on the absolute tiniest bit of scientific research. The research itself, brilliant, but it was so tiny and so specific, it should not have been blown into all proportion of this. Even Morabian himself says that this usage for this pie chart is an absolute farce. And the other thing we've got, neuroscience. Oh my goodness. Isn't this just labelled everywhere? If I could just put neuroscience on something and sell it, that would be absolutely awesome. Neuroscience is amazing, and it will be amazing in the future. However, it's not the be-all and end-all right now. Neuroscience is very specifically about the biology going on in our brains, and whilst we are getting insights from it, what we need for learning is much more about what's going on in things like cognitive science and psychology. That's much more useful for us. Lizzie says AI and blockchain are next. Yeah, not in my presentation, but absolutely. They're all changes. They're all kind of big phrases out of there. Trevor says, what do you think of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming? The research that I've done on it, Trevor, says that it is not based on empirical sound research. If you go and look up Donald P. Clark, and his name of his blog is Plan B, he's got some brilliant stuff on there about debunking all sorts of things. So I've probably got a bit on that curated resources that I shared as well. So some of the concepts of NLP, just like learning styles, really interesting and really kind of sound right to us, but when you look at the research, it's not there. So generally I steer clear of NLP personally. Other people will have different opinions. So I think it's really important that we make sure we know how to go and look at these things. Let's use our arrow tool and our text tool and just go and share, we've got things like, Adam's just asked about NLP. How do we know something is good to use? How do we know to use learning styles or not? How do we know that? So just go and share some thoughts for us before we move on. So how do we know something is good to use? A comment, a theory, an idea, things like Morabian. Some of you might not have heard of some of those things, but that's absolutely fine. Emma says experience and practice. That does go a long way, Emma. I like that. And sometimes our experience tells us this isn't right. There's something not quite right here. But I'll be honest, Emma, with learning styles, my experience for a while was it seems okay. It's only when I started learning and questioning more, my experience was that it wasn't so good. So, as Mike says, remember to click away to reveal your text. Thank you very much. Mike says solid research. Absolutely. Jovella says knowledge. That's the key thing. Lizzie said pilot in small groups, listen to other people, share in a community, absolutely. Jane, experience, ask others, yeah, ask somebody who you know and trust that has done maybe some research themselves. Gail says we find evidence and there's a real need for it. So evidence is the basis here. Kat says test it in a safe place. Trevor says what worked for me over the years. Good start. Again, we have to look back and think and go, well, learning styles have been used over the years. So how do we know it's good to use? It's that evidence base. Liz says use it and see if it gives a performance improvement. Really good. So thank you for all of your thoughts there. So to me, this is all about empirical evidence and keeping up to date. This means let's move on to professional skills as part of our Facilitation Done Right conversation. Our own professional skills in the L&D industry is something that I think has actually changed over the years, and that's what we've been discussing so far. Most of us know you can't just do stand up, chalk and talk, and that's it. Our roles are much broader, much more diverse, much more focused. So again, let's use our arrow tool and our text tool. What are some of these broad skills that you are seeing that we need in learning and development? It used to just be our subject matter expertise and standing up and talking. What are you seeing is different now? So what are some of those skills that we need in learning and development a bit broader? Remember to click away to share your writing. Understanding technology, Emma, absolutely. It's part of our everyday lives. It should be part of our professional lives. Daniel says a lot of motivation, empathy and leadership plus techniques to keep attention alive. Brilliant. And this is where things like cognitive psychology is really coming in. Maybe a bit of neuroscience in there as well. Keeping up with technology, absolutely. Deeper knowledge of training needs, really understanding that at the very beginning. Noticing group dynamics and being adaptable. Yes, absolutely. Olivia says so much choice that the pressure is on. Yeah, we really have to stand out. So the pressure is on the presenter and they must be engaging. So it's all of those interpersonal skills that we need. Gail is pointing out needs analysis, facilitation, accessible learning at the point of need. Pauline says coaching, virtual classroom facilitation. That's after my own heart, Pauline, but you're absolutely right. What else have we got? Trevor, I can't see your writing yet. I'll just remember to click away. And Liz says getting digital, really good. Researching on Twitter, keeping in the game yourself. By learning ourselves. That is so important. Thank you, Trevor. Listening, engaging, letting people develop at their own pace. Brilliant. And I really agree with all of those different things. Let's have a look at the 3 specific skills that we've got here. We know that some kind of technology skills are important, an awareness against fake L&D about things like Moravian's pie chart, learning styles. That's important. I think these are 3 key areas that we generally need to be aware of now. Use your arrow tool and just click on the one where you think, this is my weakest area. So just click on the one where you think, yeah, this is probably my weakest area out of the 3.
Look at us piling up in marketing.
Oh. Definitely understand that. I've definitely been honing my marketing skills recently. Livia asks, who is the marketing person in the group? So yeah, if you've got a bit more skill in that, let us know in the chat window.
I think it's Olivia, by the way.
Ah, thank you. Lizzie, there is the opportunity for business. Absolutely. So we're thinking our business skills are kind of okay. Some of us saying consultancy, but definitely marketing. In the chat window, why do you think marketing is this big thing that we're talking about? Why is marketing the skill that we're focusing on? Absolutely consultancy, I couldn't agree more that we all need to do that. Jane says it's time, so we don't have time to focus on that is an issue. But why is marketing important to us in L&D? Confidence to embrace social media. Oh, Trevor, you're absolutely right. You need marketing skills to attract our learners and make them engage at the very beginning. Yes, so whether we're internal or run our own company like Gail and I do, we need those skills. Liz says to tell people what we're doing, but not numbers and bums on seats, but the stories of success and impact. Yeah, absolutely. People have different perspectives on benefits of professional learning and development. Yep, absolutely. You need to sell your knowledge. To digital marketing tools, omni-channel are increasingly important. Daniel, I love that term, omni-channel, working in lots of different places. So you're absolutely right. These are some key skills that we've got to think about. So let's then focus on us. We've had a whistle-stop tour of a few different things. Let's turn to us as a facilitator. What I'd like to do is know how these changes are affecting you. These changes that we talked about, how are they affecting you? What does it mean to you?
Oh, and by the way, Daniel, Lizzie would like to know what the meaning of the term omni-channel. So if you have a moment to get back to it, that would be lovely.
So how are these changes affecting you? Emma says, I feel lost sometimes in the world of technology and keeping up and accessing training. I totally understand that, Emma. I come from a background of technology and I work in it a lot, and even now I still feel the same. I kind of go, what's this all about? I've never experienced this. So it is a perennial issue. Lizzie says ability to position yourself and your team. Yeah, and that could be within an organisation, as a consultant, with your own business, all sorts of different angles you can take on that. Kat says balancing my abilities with those of my learners, whether ahead or behind. Yeah, so even just our training skills. It comes into this, our facilitation skills. Trevor says it makes me think more that I should be offering virtual learning. I'm definitely a proponent of virtual learning, and I think there's an area where we should all be looking at that. But ultimately, you've got to look at your learners, your business, the learning needs. It might not be right for you, but it probably is. So chat to Gail, chat to me, go onto Twitter and find people. There's loads that you can do about that. Daniel says determining the course of the next venture, the project. And he's an entrepreneur. I love it. Focusing on what to do, says Liz. Finding the tool, not to discover the tool and then wonder how I'll use it. Lizzie says my current technology challenge is how to add comments to vlogs. Oh, the basics. That's not a basic, I don't think. I think that's a really interesting one. And Jane says, I've been on a steep learning curve over the last year producing online video training. What works face-to-face doesn't always work online. You are absolutely spot on. And it's a journey that we're all on, and that includes people like myself and the other speakers on this series and Gail. We're all looking to move forwards. Oh, I did not mean to do that. So what I would like to know is, well, how are you going to move forwards? What are you already doing? Or how are you going to work in the future? And that's a great point that you put there, Lizzie. Any offers for welcome to help to add subtitles are welcome. So let's get together and work together. Kat, Kat, you have asked me a question privately. Ask that publicly to all participants, and I will share the answer to that question for you. So answer that ask that to all participants. So how are you going to move forward? What is it you are doing? I mean, one of them is coming here today, which is a brilliant start, and hopefully coming to the rest of them as well. Emma says, I'm going to connect with you. Oh, Emma, you're lovely.
Good decision,
Emma. Liz says, I'm in a working out loud circle. Oh, I saw that, Liz, yes. With non-training people, and that's very interesting. That sounds pretty cool. What other things are we doing? What other things are we doing, or could we be doing? So I find blogging is a really good thing. So I work for Training Journal as the deputy editor, and I get involved in hosting webinar discussions. I write about things. We have topics each month, and sometimes I think I'm not terribly interested in that topic, but I go and research it because I'm a good journalist and a good worker, and I get really interested, and it really broadens my knowledge, which is excellent. Going to Learning Technologies next week. Yes, Liz, looking forward to seeing you there. Trevor says going to Kirsty's School of Facilitation meetings. I haven't been to one yet, but I know Kirsty is brilliant, so I'm sure they're excellent.
And she's doing a session, a recorded session very shortly for us, so watch this space, Trevor.
Brilliant. And Jane says talking to face-to-face clients about other types of learning, which is brilliant. Daniel says connecting and exchanging ideas. That is all absolutely brilliant. Now, Kat, I didn't see that question come through to all participants. I didn't see it, so you might have sent it to all attendees by mistake. But where I get my images from is unsplash.com, completely free and absolutely brilliant. Let's summarise and go into a bit of a discussion in our last 7 minutes. So in summary, what we have looked at today, change happens all the time. We know that, but not all things that should have changed actually have. Technology massively impacts how we work, how our attendees work, how we access learning, develop and deliver learning. We've got to be up, oh, excuse me a second. We've got to be up to speed with that, but we can't do everything, so pick and choose. We definitely need to take control of our careers, and the examples that you've given previously, all brilliant, all sorts of things that we can go and do, and we have to keep our skills up to date. We can't do everything, but we can keep them up to date. That is me. That is everything that I wanted to cover with you. And I'm really pleased to have had the conversation with you. If you want to connect with me, please do. I'd love to continue this conversation on LinkedIn, maybe on Twitter, something like that. But Gail, let me hand back to you on any kind of any questions that I've missed, anything that you want to pick up on to finish with.
Thank you very much, Joe. It was an highly interactive session. As I mentioned, Joe is an incredibly, the best guru in the virtual classroom world, and I'm absolutely delighted she's found the time to do a session for us today. And it was amazing. It was mind-blowing. So thank you very much, Joe. So many information. I've captured all the links that Joe has sent us, and I will send them with the recording, so everybody can sit around and spend hours and days going through all the content that you've shared, Joe. It's wonderful. Thank you, Joe. It was the very first sessions of Facilitation Done Right. And next week, we're having another session with Olivia, who was on the call today, which is about starting a learning conversation in a digital age, essential beginner's guide. We will cover everything from setting up a profile, what does expert status profile look like, and so on. I've actually done a little experiment myself, and I will share it on Twitter in the coming days as a warm-up for Olivia's session. So next Friday, remember to register. I think I will pop it just there in the chat. And I don't think I've missed any questions, but if you do have a question for Joe, please can you raise your hand, pop it in the chat as we're coming to an end of this wonderful session. Thank you. And I would like to thank you, the group, because you've been an amazing group.
Yes, they really have. It's been a whistle-stop tour, and they've absolutely kept up and shared and chatted. And we haven't even had any facilitation failure at all, Gail, so that's excellent.
No, we don't do failure, don't we, Joe? Actually, I was actually wanting to ask Joe 2 questions as we finish it. I wanted to tell Joe, like Joe, you know, we're all talking about creating conversation online, and how does it go for you? Has it always been easy? I mean, have you struggled at some point, you know, when you started using social media and online community? Have you faced any challenges you want to share with us?
Of course it's not easy. And when I first started on Twitter, I was a lurker, so I just sort of listened and I thought, what is this Twitter rubbish? It's just about celebrities and what I had for breakfast, which is what so many people think. And you know, I'd be like open a bottle of champagne every time I got one new follower, some stuff like that. And when I started blogging, I was just thinking, well, who is going to listen to me? What have I got to say? You know, why would I want to write something? But I just started doing it, and I look back at those blogs and I think, oh, terrible. And I've kind of updated some of them. But it's really important to just get out there and start. And actually, it's only taken me a few years to get a bit of a following, to find a voice, to find comfort and confidence. Definitely get out there.
So it does take time and it does take practice, doesn't it, Joe?
Absolutely it does. And I look back at those blogs now and some of them I go, okay, I've learned a lot about images and subheadings and search engine optimization and grabbing people with headlines. But I had to start somewhere. So, you know, you learn those things as you go along and you build up your community or your PLN, your personal learning network on Twitter. And I'm involved in all sorts of groups and communities now that I find really useful. I give them value and they give me value. So I can't recommend it enough. It's definitely the way forwards, I think.
Thank you very much, Joe. And I really like this last comment that you've made, is that, yes, we all want to actually impact our learners, but also, I think we have to be honest, and very often they also impact us, and it is why it is called a conversation. It's two sideways. And I think that's what we're going to explore in the coming weeks. And Joe mentioned it, it's not about being a sage on the stage. Sorry, it's a mouthful for a French person. But it is also about being able to open up and show that we don't know everything. We are in the virtual world and we're overloaded with information. And yet sometimes our learners will know more than we do on some topics. And we just have to admit it, face it, and learn from them. So hopefully you all enjoyed this session, and you're going to carry on following FacilitationDoneRight and all the other wonderful trainers that's going to come and share with us in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for your time, Joe, and thank you so much for your time, all of you who've been here today. You've been a really good group. Thanks a lot.